Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Review Desk, where we discuss all manner of entertainment, particularly films, TV shows, and comic books. Today, with our panelist Desmond, we will be discussing the newly released Obi Wan Kenobi, the latest entry in the Star Wars franchise. Since the late 70s, the Star Wars franchise has enthralled both those in the audience and professionals in the entertainment business. It has become a gargantuan franchise on its own, one whose impact is still felt decades after its release. There are fans, old and new, who still enjoy the material that this franchise has provided. The question is, how do the newer entries rank against those from days of old? Now, Desmond, you've seen Obi Wan Kenobi. The first 2 episodes were released on Friday, May 27th. I would like to ask you first, before we get into the review, and I would like to remind our listeners that we will be providing timestamps for those who wish to avoid spoilers. I would like to ask you, Desmond, before the show was released, how did you feel when it was announced?
Thanks again, Paul. Obi Wan Kenobi, when it was initially announced, I had my reservations.
You had your reservations. Would you say that those reservations were validated based upon the fact that shows like Mandalorian and Boba Fett have come before and have received some praise? Do you think that the track record of those shows was enough to build a solid foundation for Obi Wan Kenobi?
Yes and no. In terms of production value, I knew that they were going to do a good job. Disney has been putting a lot of money into the Star Wars franchise. They paid a lot for it, so they want to make a lot back, But the biggest difference for me, why I was concerned, is when you look at Mandalorian or Boba Fett, these are all set after the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yes,
whereas Obi Wan Kenobi takes place before the original Star Wars trilogy and after the prequel trilogy. Now, my biggest concern was, are there going to be any stakes? Because we know Obi-Wan is not going to die. He is not going to be mortally wounded in any capacity, because we see him again in A New Hope. Every time in this show when he is in a dangerous situation, or any other character for that matter who we know survives is in a dangerous situation, how are they going to keep the suspense going? If somebody's pointing a blaster at this guy, but I know for a fact that 20, 30 years down the line, he's still going to be around. So that was my biggest concern, that it might not be exciting because we already know what's going to happen and we know who's going to survive.
And after you've watched the episodes, how did you feel? Let's go into the good and the bad of it. We'll discuss the good first, as usual.
The good of it, I will be honest, despite the fact that we know what's going to happen, there is some sense of suspense. I will be honest. The idea of Ewan McGregor, Obi Wan Kenobi on the run, constantly trying to avoid confrontations with the Empire, it does give you a sense of suspense. So I will say that they managed to get that right. Another good point is Ewan McGregor's performance is, of course, brilliant. He is, without a doubt, both on paper and off, the star of the show. The performance that he delivers was absolutely captivating. You could see the emotion in his eyes in certain scenes. You could see the fact that he's weathered in certain scenes. I will say that the performances are very good. Joel Edgerton's performance was also very good. Has also this sort of sense of he's been through a lot and he doesn't want to have to deal with unnecessary things. He's also not afraid of confrontation with Obi Wan Kenobi, despite the fact that he knows this guy's a Jedi, this guy could table me in 2 seconds. It also reflects the Owen Lars that we know from A New Hope. He's as strict with Luke as he is with Obi-Wan in this show. So those two actors for me were the highlight. So performances were well done. I'll give them credit for being able to build some suspense.
Yes, the performances of both Ewan McGregor and Joel Edgerton have been called out as being particularly well done. Now, we're going to go over to the bad. What were the aspects of the show, these two episodes in any case, that you didn't particularly like?
Despite the fact that there was some suspense, there are no stakes, right? There's a scene, which I'll get into later into the spoiler section. There's a scene where a character gets confronted by a member of the Empire, and it's meant to be suspenseful. It's meant to be like, is he going to die or not? But you already know that he survives. So you're like, the only surprise I could have is, how is he going to get out of this? And there are several situations like that where characters we've known from later on are in situations where they might be killed, where they might be apprehended. And the only surprise is, how are they going to get out of this? Not the fact that they're going to get out of this, but the how of it. And in many cases, it felt like this is pure luck. You know, this is PIS, which stands for plot-induced stupidity.
I'm sorry, what exactly is plot-induced stupidity?
Plot-induced stupidity is a concept in entertainment where the script allows people, usually antagonists, to behave in a non-intelligent manner, allowing the protagonist to escape or reach their goals. For instance, in this show, there's a situation with a character who's usually very impulsive, takes a lightsaber, incapacitates, or murders people. When this particular character is going after Obi-Wan, or a character we will see further down the line, instead of using their weapons, they use the Force to kind of, interrogate them and then leave it at that, let them survive. One other example is, for instance, Jurassic Park. The scene where Ellie and Dr. Grant are holding the door closed so that a raptor doesn't get inside. Ellie's trying to reach for the gun with her foot. Lex, the girl, is hacking away at the system trying to get access. And Tim, the boy, is just standing behind her chair not doing anything. Now, this is an example of plot-induced stupidity because he could have gotten the gun, handed it to either Ellie or Dr. Grant, and they could have taken out the raptor. So plot-induced stupidity is whenever a character acts in an irrational or stupid way, basically to drag the plot along, to allow the plot to happen and have the protagonist have as much favor as possible. So it happens in this show where a character has been shown to be far more impulsive when it comes to the protagonist or the deuteronogenist, that they simply hold back or completely forget that they have their powers. Certain aspects of the episodes feel like filler. There's a certain character that we spend a lot of time on that was strange to me, until there's a plot point that kind of links why, kind of explains why that much time is spent on a character. So that was pretty good. But still, the entire plot surrounding around the character and why Obi-Wan gets involved again it just felt like filler. Like, you could have given me some more meat with these potatoes. So I'm afraid that if they go on like this, most of it is going to feel like filler until a penultimate confrontation between Obi-Wan and the person working behind the shadows. There are certain scenes, which I'll get into later into the spoilers, of callbacks and mentions and name drops that are pretty much just there for the fans, like, hey, look, we talked about this. And not so much for the plot, which I felt, again, drags it down, and also has your characters doing something that might look cool for Star Wars fans, like, hey, he said that, hey, he mentioned that, but is very risky and doesn't make sense for most of the plot.
Well, Desmond, thank you for your opinion on the Obi Wan Kenobi show.
No problem.
Do you think you'll continue to watch it?
I'll probably just watch the last episode when that's out, but I don't think I'm gonna watch all of it. I didn't watch all of Boba Fett. I tried, but I don't think I'm going to watch all of Kenobi. Probably just watch the final episode to see if Vader's in it.
Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening in on this episode of the Review Desk. Let us know in the comments. Did you like the first 2 episodes of Obi Wan Kenobi? Will you continue to watch it? Or are you going to spend your time on something that you consider more worthwhile? We thank you for your time and look forward to our next episode. Until then, goodbye and good fortune.